Well, it's been a wee while since I last made a video, has to be said. I think it's been about a month, maybe just over a month, or just under even. Not sure. There's just been a lot of things going on behind the scenes in my life, so I'm not all together with it at the moment currently. But the only reason I'm saying that is because while I have been away on a sort of hiatus, I did say on Telegram a while ago that I was taking a bit of a break. But obviously, if you don't follow me on Telegram, you might not have seen that. But the reason that I'm bringing this up, obviously, is because despite me not really uploading or anything, my subscribers still continue to go up, which is bizarre, but it's appreciated nonetheless. But yeah, and for anybody who does follow my channel and whatnot, I have been appearing on streams once every week on Scott Sarmer's channel. So yeah. I'll leave the link to that for anybody that's interested if you're not aware. But enough of me and my self-pity. I thought I would touch upon this because yesterday the Scottish Government, of course, released their new transgender guidelines, supporting young people and transgender people. Well, I'll give you the exact title, sorry. Supporting transgender young people in schools, guidance for Scottish schools, right? Now, obviously, a lot of the articles that have come out that have touched upon this. Scottish 4-year-olds can change gender at school without parents' consent. Scots schools should allow trans pupils to use toilets matching their identity, new guidance says. Sorry, let me mute my phone real quick in case this happens again. Don't know if anybody even heard that. In fact, I'll just turn it off. Sorry, wrong one. Then we've got, see this computer. Scotland will let pupils change gender aged 4 without the parents' consent and tell teachers not to question a child's request to choose a new name or use a different toilet. We've also got fury as Scottish pupils allowed to change gender at age 4 without parental consent. So you get the point, of course. So I think what I'll do to begin with in this video is I'll briefly go through a little bit of, well, one of the articles in question, the Daily Mail's one, where it says here that children as young as 4 will be able to change their gender at school without the parents' consent under guidance introduced in Scotland. Any people who decides they want to switch gender must be supported and listened to in school following the Scottish Government's advice. The guidance applies in primary schools where the youngest children are only 4 or 5 because recognition and development of gender identity can occur at a young age. And who do we have on the screen here? Of course, the raging feminist bulldog, Shirley Ann Somerville, the same raging feminist bulldog that I made a video on June the 17th. I'm pretty sure I've made other videos on her in the past, but that was the one where she was coming out and talking vehemently about how we were going to be implementing anti-racist education as soon as possible. Apparently it would eradicate racism. There she is there. So, yeah. I mean, if the SNP aren't, grandstanding about feminism, if they're not doing that, if they're not pandering to Muslims and BAMEs, if they're not playing into this narrative that oppression exists, if they're not talking about anti-racism, etc., then it's the trannies and the LGBT. I mean, the SNP tick every fucking box going. Every box going. They really are the most embarrassing but also malevolent political party. Puppets, of course, but malevolent political party for all that. Not just in Scotland. I would probably argue in the entirety of the UK. I really would. And that's just them without devolved powers or complete control over Scotland. Can you imagine how much worse it would fucking be? Scottish education ranked one of the world's best many years ago, and this is the sort of shit it now resorts to because the feminists in the SNP and the just not going to go there. So anyway, as I say, I was just reading a little bit of that article, but the actual publication is here. Supporting transgender pupils in schools, guidance for Scottish schools. So I haven't read through the entirety of this. I read a bit of it yesterday, and then I had work today, and I'm not long home. If my computer really would stop being an arsehole, it would be much appreciated. There's the bulldog again. So it says here, and I'll zoom in on this a little bit. Sorry, this computer, man. The mouse is all over the place. This is really not how I wanted to come back from my first video. The aim of the government's education policy is to achieve excellence and equity for all our young people in a high-performing education system. To achieve this, we must ensure every child and young person is happy, safe, respected and included in the learning environment. By doing so, we are creating the right environment for everyone to participate fully in their education and achieve their potential. The provision of a safe, respectful and inclusive learning environment for all pupils is paramount, and it is therefore vital that our schools have the confidence to meet the needs of all pupils, including transgender pupils, who make a minuscule proportion of the population. And I mean, we have to remember here, transgender people have to be diagnosed with what they now class as gender dysphoria. I mean, so if a kid just claims they're transgender, now we have to go along with it. I mean, you have to wonder why so many kids these days, despite them being as minuscule minority, or percentage even, are coming out and identifying as non-binary and pansexual, etc. These are terms that didn't fucking exist several years ago. But isn't it funny that now they're being introduced to all these terms, now they're self-identifying as such, and the SNP in this case, in this instance, are allowing these children to proceed with this delusion. Potentially a phase, a fad, whatever you will. Things should be put in place to help kids who genuinely are confused about who they are, or teenagers who genuinely are confused about who they are. Policies should not be implemented to reaffirm their delusions, reaffirm their mental distress. Because I'm sorry, like gender dysphoria as they call it now, it's a mental illness. It's a fucking mental illness for the legitimate people that suffer from such. Reaffirming their delusions is not helping them at all. So anyway, the guidance reflects the Equality 2010 duties on education providers with advice based on getting it right for every child approach. On the practical application of those duties in a school setting, I am confident this guidance does so in a way that will help schools meet the needs of all their pupils, including girls and transgender pupils. Girls as well, of course. Feminism. While the primary focus of this guidance is to help schools support transgender pupils, the guidance also recognises the particular importance of privacy and the provision of safe spaces for girls and boys within schools. This is a critical theme that is recognised and addressed throughout the guidance. The government is also looking forward to a range of other actions to address the issue of gender equality within education. The programme for government commits us to developing national guidance for schools that will set out in a range of support and practical prevention and intervention measures available to address the issues of gender-based violence and harmful sexual behaviour in schools, because that's so prevalent. And then, of course, it says the recommendations, additionally, of the First Minister's Advisory Group on Women and Girls, I know, another feminist cabal, commits us to establish a national task force on gender equality in education and learning. These actions complement the aims of our cross-cutting, equally safe strategy and our board commitment to eradicate gender-based violence in every part of our society. Okay, great. So let's just continue. The guidance uses the term transgender and trans as umbrella terms for those who wish... for those whose gender identity differs in some way from the sex assigned at birth. Scottish Government, folks. Young people and their families may use other terms. The term gender reassignment is the protected characteristic under the Equality 2010 Act, which relates to transgender people. Under the Act, a young person has the protected characteristic of gender reassignment if they propose to undergo, are undergoing, or have undergone any part of a process for the purpose of reassigning their sex. This is a personal process rather than a medical process. For example, the young person may propose to change their name and pronouns. More information can be found. Oh, yippee-doo. While reading through this, I did find this of interest for anybody that's aware of the sustainable developments, etc., etc. Just notice the wording included here. So, it says here that professional values are at the heart of General Teaching Council, GTC, Scotland's professional standards for Scotland's teachers 2021. These professional values guide teachers in all their work with learners and are helpful when thinking about how best to support transgender young people. Teachers are not expected to be experts and to have all the answers. What matters most is having a respectful and inclusive approach. The professional values of trust and respect, integrity and social justice are core to what it means to be a teacher in Scotland and include promoting health and well-being of self, colleagues and the children and young people in my care. Building and fostering positive relationships in the learning community which are respectful of individuals. Embracing global educational and social values of sustainability, equality, equity and justice and recognising children's rights. You know, this is what it means to be a teacher in Scotland today, apparently, in 2021. What it means to be a teacher in Scotland is to preach about sustainability and the social values of aforementioned sustainability. What the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? Tell me what that means. Because I don't have a fucking clue. As somebody that's gone into great depth in the past in regards to sustainable developments, etc., I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means. But there it is again. Then it goes on to say, respecting the rights of all learners as outlined in the UNCRC and their entitlement to be included in decisions regarding their learning experiences and of all aspects of their well-being developed and supported. I mean, I hate that shit. Where they're included in decisions regarding their learning experiences, you know, so they get brainwashed with bullshit and then they get asked what they would like to see different in the education, and they'll come away with things like, oh, we need to learn more about climate change because we learned all about it last year, you know, like bullshit like that. Then it goes on to say, committing to social justice through fair, transparent, inclusive and sustainable policies and practices in relation to protected characteristics such as age, disability, gender, you know, the intersectional fucking wormhole. Funny enough, the last word in that paragraph is intersectionality. Of course, because this is the Scottish Government, this is the SNP. Anyway, I really am digressing. So, recognition and development of gender identity can occur at a young age. Some young people are exploring their gender identity in primary schools. Primary schools need to be able to meet the needs of these young people to ensure they have a safe, inclusive and respectful environment in which to learn. This guidance is therefore applicable to primary school settings, although careful professional judgment must be applied to ensure support offered is age appropriate. If a young person in the school says that they now want to live as a boy, although their sex assigned at birth was female, or they now want to live as a girl, although their sex assigned at birth was male, it is important to provide support and listen to what they are saying. If others deny this, it may have a detrimental impact on the young person's well-being, relationships and behaviour, and this is often clearly apparent to teachers, parents and carers. If a young person would like changes to be made in order that they are supported to learn, then consider what is in the best interest of the young person. You may also want to get support and advice from school leadership, local authorities or an outside agency. Parents and carers play an important role in any young person's life and in any decision-making process, particularly for those in a primary school setting. Where possible, consider the best approach to involving and including the young person in any decision-making. If information needs to be shared with others, take time to consider the young person's point of view and understand the impact this decision may have on their well-being. You should make sure that any sharing of information complies with the relevant legal requirement. Okay. Many children behave in ways which do not conform to gender stereotypes, and they may experience bullying as a result. Although this guidance was not developed specifically for young people who do not conform to gender stereotypes, who are not transgender, this guidance may still be useful to inform some school practice. But you know, it's funny though, is it not? Because that's normally how transgenders are identified, is it not? They don't conform to gender stereotypes, and they go, oh, we always knew that John was transgender because when John was Rachel, you know, he liked to play outside in the mud instead of with dolls. You know, it's like, this is what they do all the time. The one hand they tell you that gender stereotypes are social constructs, but yet the minute a kid acts out of the norm, like a tomboy or something along those lines, and then that's grounds for concern. That's proof right there, or potential proof right there, that little Johnny's transgender and vice versa. But anyway, in general, being alert to gender stereotypes and being aware that not every child will identify as the sex they were assigned at birth. I mean, this is fucking stupid. Like, I mean, come on. Like, the likelihood of having a kid who doesn't conform, the likelihood of having a kid who's a transgender or who's suffering from gender dysphoria in your entire school. I mean, it's got to be like it's got to be about 1 in 100,000 chance of that occurring. But yet, here what they want you to do is help to create an environment in which all young people flourish. And what they mean by that is ensuring play and learning options are gender neutral, ensuring feedback is consistent, boys and girls aren't praised for different things. Yeah, it's just a feminist bullshit. It reeks of feminism because boys are praised more. Using books and resources which challenge gender stereotypes and include transgender people, because this is going to benefit everyone apparently. Despite the fact there might not even be a transgender in the vicinity, everything needs to be gender neutral, and the excuse that they give is that there might be, and this might cause them distress. Now the reality of the fucking matter is here, you are pushing your gender neutral bullshit in an attempt to feminize little boys, and what I mean by that is there's a feminist undertone to this crap. It's riddled throughout the entirety of the thing. Even at the beginning it talks about helping transgenders and girls. It's feminist undertones. What nonsense. You're going to put things in place on the off chance a transgender might waltz into your school one day. Come on. Participating in transgender commemorative and celebratory days such as LGBT History Month and Transgender Day of Visibility alongside other commemorative days such as International Women's Day. See, I get what the fuck's that going to do with trannies? What's it going to do with it? Nothing. Not conforming to gender stereotypes is a healthy, normal part of growing up and should not lead to any assumptions being made that the child may be transgender or lesbian, gay or bisexual. The distinction between gender non-conforming behaviour and transgender young people is that transgender people are likely to be persistent and insistent that their gender identity does not align with the sex they were assigned at birth. But we could be talking about a primary school kid here, and we're expected to take this child seriously? Really? And I would argue that they're more likely to be somewhat confused if it's gender neutral. Fucking hell. And in their section where they refer to transgender bullying, I'm just scrolling through it, and this bit caught my eye as well, where it says here that some of the ways that, recommendations, some school staff can help young people feel safe from transphobic bullying by ensuring that school policies and practice are supportive. Recommendations are yada yada yada, but this one here: teachers should educate young people about transgender issues and work towards creating a culture of respect. Age-appropriate resources highlighted in the resources section in this document may help. Oh, well, I'll be having a fucking look at that, so I will. But, it's just, this is what they always do. If we just educate kids about homosexuality, then that will stop the bullying. If we just teach the children about diversity, racism will stop. If we teach the children all about transgenders and how it's normal and there's nothing wrong with it, that will stop transphobia. Fuck off. One other thing, while we're on this, the subject of the Scottish Government and whatnot, over the years, of course, it's become rather apparent that they've been trying very damn hard to create this impression that teachers aren't there to teach, they're your friends. They're role models, like, they're essentially mothering children at this point. And that's the sort of impression that I'm getting anyway. Even with things such as this on the screen. When a young person approaches you to discuss their gender identity, why would a pupil go to their teacher to discuss these things? Like, when I was in school, teachers just taught. You went into class, you learnt your maths, you learnt your English, and you went home. But now that there's this strange dynamic that's starting to appear here where teachers are approachable and they're your friends. You can tell them things that you can't tell your family. It's like as if they're trying to create a wedge between child and parent. You can go to them. Think name person scheme. There's another example of that. But anyway, so when this hypothetical child, approaches you, meaning the teacher, to discuss their gender identity, they have often taken a long time to consider who to talk to and are looking for an adult to listen and be supportive. Coming out can be beneficial for young people's well-being as it allows them to discuss how they feel, blah, blah, blah. Some tips for responding to a young person who talks to you about being transgender or about their gender identity might include not to panic, they don't expect you to be an expert. Say thank you, in fact, they have trusted you enough to speak to you as a privilege. Blah, blah, blah. This one here, though, I found funny. Sorry, this computer, it really is. I think it's the mouse, actually. Maybe it's my bodies are dying. It says here, ask what name and pronoun you should use to address them. Check if that's all the time. Or in certain circumstances. And then this one here as well. How are things at home? Are their family aware that they are considering their gender identity? Are they being supported at home? These resources sections in the document may help. Oh, Jesus. But then it says here, if a young person comes out to you, it's also important not to deny their identity or overly question their understanding of their gender identity. Teachers can, of course, ask reflective questions that allow young people to express themselves, explore their gender identity, and identify their needs. Okay. This is here. Some young people who are transgender change their name and their pronouns, while others don't. Teachers should respect the young person's wishes and use the name pronoun they have asked to be used. If you are not sure what name pronoun they use, ask them in private at a suitable time. It should be noted that anyone can change their name informally as long as it's not for a criminal purpose. Again, as I say, I'm just scrolling through this. I'm on page 26 now, but I found the topic of toilets or changing rooms, etc. I love this bullet point here. A transgender young person should not be made to use the toilet or changing room if there is sex assigned at birth. Then it goes on to say, and then the follow-up bullet point, recognise that some transgender young people may not be comfortable using a single-sex toilet or changing room that matches their gender identity, in which case providing a gender-neutral space or accessible toilet can be the best alternative. But not this one here is particularly like, they should not be made to use a toilet or changing room of their assigned sex, despite the fact they're either a man or a woman or a boy or a girl. Doesn't matter, they've said otherwise, Doesn't matter, Biology's out the window here in Rainbow Unicorn Land quite clearly. And then it goes on to talk about recommended practices. Again, of course, this is a common theme in this document. But it goes on to say here that... wait, where is it? Sorry. Wait. Maybe it was safety concerns. Good practice. God's sake, this video's starting to get too long already. Right, I need to scroll up and find... Oh, yeah, wait. If young people or their parents/carers express concerns about sharing toilets or changing rooms with a transgender young person, it may be because they're concerned that the transgender young person may behave inappropriately. Oh, it may be that. They don't know. They don't know because they're not going to sit and listen to your concerns. No, they're not. Because that's not how this works. You're going to be educated, as it says here. Where is it? In this instance, schools should seek to dispel any misconceptions. What happens in the case of women, or mother, let's just say, not wanting a man or a boy, I should say, in the changing rooms with her daughter? Because it's a boy. Doesn't matter how that boy identifies. Does not matter. No, it doesn't matter. I don't know, it's just a hunch. Maybe it's not normal, it's not right. You know, but you're going to sit them down and you're going to educate them. That's the fucking SNP for you. Oh, we're going to educate you. Here's our documentation. This is all the educational resources you're going to need. Open it up, it's a bunch of bullshit. Let's be honest. I mean, everything I've read so much fucking nonsense. Absolute nonsense. They live in dream world. The bollocks that they push, they pump out. You know what I mean? A transgender young person's presence does not constitute inappropriate behaviour, but it doesn't matter if it does or not. Principle's the same. There's a guy in a change room with girls. Fuck's sake, like. And then it says here, if a young person raises a concern regarding sharing facilities with a transgender young person, and it is established, but it has to be established that they will experience disadvantage as a result, then the school should seek to respect the rights of all. To do this, the school should seek to come to an agreement to accommodate everyone involved after discussion and consideration of all options available. So only if they can establish that you will experience disadvantage as a result. I mean, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? So essentially, shut up and sit down. Your concerns don't matter because you're not experiencing disadvantage as a result of this. It doesn't matter how you feel because it's all about how the transgender feels, quote unquote. I mean, come on. Oh, wow. Then I've got school uniforms here. Most schools have a uniform policy or code, blah, blah, blah. However, forcing transgender young people to wear clothes which do not match their gender identity can be distressing for them. This is what I don't get. Again, I said this at the start of the video and I'm going to say it again now, right? 1 minute gender is a social construct, right? And all these gender stereotypes, they're social constructs. So if that is the case, that they are social constructs and they do not actually exist, then surely this transgender, hypothetical transgender, shouldn't give a shit what they wear. Shouldn't care. It doesn't bother them. It doesn't matter. Boys only wear, shorts and whatever because that's what society tells them. And girls only wear dresses because that's what society tells them. So transgender shouldn't give a shit. Because it's not real. I mean, how can they feel distressed for something that's a social construct? But I know it's just something that goes in my head sometimes when I hear this bollocks or read this bollocks even. If your school is a uniform, the school uniform policy should include a range of options to accommodate the needs of girls and boys, and these should also accommodate the needs of transgender young people through gender-neutral options. Blah, 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 blah. Oh. Come on, God, man, it's just ridiculous nonsense. Social dancing. This one here. Many schools hold ceilidhs, proms and school discos and include partner dance in a curriculum. This can be a much enjoyed part of school life and schools should not be discouraged from teaching dance and social dancing. However, schools should be aware of the traditionally gendered aspects of dance. Traditional, old school like this, this is progression and modern. 21st century Scotland. Gendered aspect of dances and should look for ways to ensure that this doesn't exclude transgender young people. Schools can be inclusive of all young people by ensuring there are no restrictions on who young people can dance with, allowing young people to wear what makes them feel comfortable. Oh, God. God's sake. The way that they talk about transgenders as well, like they're trying to tell us they're totally normal people. Right, but just this one sentence here. Some transgender young people find PE classes very difficult because they're concerned about not having their gender identity accepted or about their physical appearance. I mean, it just sounds to me as if they've got something wrong with them, if that's genuinely the truth. You know what I'm saying? That's society's fault. We need to be re-educated because we're a bunch of fucking bigots. Clearly. If PE classes are organised by sex, a transgender young person should be allowed to take part within the group which matches their gender identity. For a non-binary young person, ask them which group they would feel most comfortable being with. I would assume none because they're non-binary. Well, what do I know? Oh God. Jesus, anyway. Oh, wow. Allowing transgender young people to wear sportswear which matches their expressed gender identity is good practice in PE, apparently. For swimming, skirted swimsuits, baggy shorts, lycra surfing tops, or short wetsuits are alternatives for transgender... Okay. Oh. Confidentiality information and child protection. Confidentiality and privacy is important to transgender young people. They can worry about people disclosing information about their gender identity to others and or about professionals taking action which they have not agreed to. National Child Protection Guidelines requires agencies and professionals, including teachers, to follow particular procedures for confidentiality and information sharing. But being transgender is not a child protection issue in and of itself. If there is a child protection issue, this should be specified and the school's child protection guidelines followed. But if there's not, well then you don't need to say anything to anyone. No, it just stays between you and the school, the teacher, whomever. It's important to respect the young person's right to privacy. Being transgender is not a child protection issue or well-being concern. Young people should be involved in all the decisions affecting them and understand what's happening, blah, blah, blah. If a young person wishes to come out in a school setting, information may need to be shared. Teachers should consider who to tell and how, take into account the young person's view and legal requirements on this. However, a transgender young person may not have told their family about their gender identity. Inadvertent disclosure could cause needless stress for the young person or could put them at risk and breach legal requirements. Therefore, it is best to not share information with parents or carers without considering and respecting the young person's views and rights. A transgender young person may wish to change schools as part of the transition process. The previous name does not need to be shared with a new school. It is not necessary for all staff, blah, 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 right? But, you know, this here, though. Transgender young person may have not told their family. Therefore, it's best not to share information with parents or carers without considering and respecting the young person's views and rights. I'm pretty sure the parents or anyone else, or parents or carers, they have more of a right to fucking know than anyone else. That's their child. Their child's delusions being reaffirmed by the school. And again, this is all working in tandem with the LGBT education that's compulsory now, where they're learning about gender identities, etc., etc., etc. You're not telling me that that is not going to create, at the very bare minimum, a tiny percentage of children that are going to start becoming confused about who they are. And the schools are going to reaffirm this fucking belief. Because we live in an era now where you're not going to dismiss these things as fads. You're not going to tell them that there's nothing wrong with them. You're not going to do any of these things. Instead, you are going to play along with this. And as time goes on, you're making it worse. And you're not even going to tell the parents. Wow. Then it goes on to talk about parents and carers and families, etc. You know, evidence shows that young people who have parents who are supportive of their transgender identity are more likely to have a good mental health, improved self-esteem, and reduced rates of depression. Because, again, no, depression and suicide through the roof, by the way. It's not a laughing matter, but you get the point. But it goes on to say, responses to a transgender person coming out can vary, but the majority of parents and carers will want to do what's in the best interest of their child. I mean, I hate that bullshit. Parents and carers may have a different view from the transgender young person. If this is the case, teachers and school staff can assist by creating opportunities for young people to have their views heard, by developing a support plan for the transgender young person in the first instance. Parents and carers may also need additional support to discuss their feelings. Whatever the home situation, schools should continue to keep the young person involved. This could mean giving the young person the opportunity to voice opinions which differ from the parents and carers. The siblings of transgender young people may also require additional support. They may need space and time to process what's happening, or may be at risk of experiencing bullying, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Scotland's curriculum for excellence is based on a set of core values, including that the curriculum must be inclusive, must be a stimulus for personal achievement, and must, through broadening of experience, be an encouragement towards informed and responsible citizenship. You know, these words, it's like UN 101, United Nations rhetoric, global citizenship, citizenship. You're not even a Scottish person anymore, you're just a fucking citizen. You're just a statistic, you're just a number. Citizenship. I mean, these words, it's nonsense words. Well, I forgot though, Scotland's full of BAMEs now and full of non-Scots, so we're all citizens in this globalised world, eh? The experiences and outcomes in the curriculum are designed to allow teachers the flexibility to include different contexts and themes based on what the learners need to know, that age and stage appropriate. And then this bit here, Additionally, young people notice the things that schools don't mention, excluding transgender voices, identities, and topics in school, even unintentionally. Even young people, when young people already know about them, can send out a negative message. I mean, what the fuck do you need to learn transgender topics and voices in school? Why? Why? What's so interesting about that? No one cares. No one. Transgender identities should be included alongside other identities in classroom school displays. This is to ensure transgender young people feel respected and included in their learning environment. Examples are provided below. I mean, how the fuck would you... I mean... okay, so I assume these posters are talking about here, there'll be a bunch of white women, of course, because feminism, bunch of BAMs, men and women, and we're going to have a tranny. How are we supposed to know that the person in the poster, just for this hypothetical poster, is a transgender? What, is there going to be an LGBT tranny flag waved behind them? I mean, okay, we're getting told all the time they're just like me and you, there's no difference, but I mean, okay, whatever. The school is an inclusive approach to all gender identities. Everyone is treated with respect, and the school will challenge gender stereotypes. There's the feminist shit again. They will challenge gender stereotypes. Yeah, I've made videos on this in the past, going back years where they're talking about doing this. Going back years. Yeah, celebrate transgender visibility. She, he, they, girl, boy. Gender is not this. It is. Because gender is sex. It's the same fucking thing. But this is what they've done. They've separated gender and sex and made them two separate entities, but the reality of the matter is they are identical. They're synonymous words. That's what they are. They are synonymous words. Same as a car and a vehicle, as the Yankees would say. It's just the same thing. Girl, boy. XXXY. Simple. Apologies, this video's starting to get too long, but as I say, I'm on page 47, but I just keep reading things that I'm like, what? So it says here, one of the best ways to encourage inclusion is to involve young people directly and to support their engagement and participation in a way that suits the young person. It is an opportunity for them to learn and gain support, allows them to influence the school culture, and helps the school make the right changes and improvements for their young people, right? Then it says some methods which schools in Scotland have already started using. Inviting young people to participate in or leading working groups on equality and inclusion. I mean, why the fuck is this happening? My God, man, see the day comes when I have a child. I cannot wait for that fucking day when I have a child. I'll be honest with you there. But this stuff terrifies me. Oh my God. Fucking God, what the fuck's an equality and inclusion group? Conducting learner voices surveys to capture young people's views about how well the school supports LGBT inclusion. You know, this one here. Setting up an LGBT and allies group, gender identity and sexual orientation alliance are similar in schools to create a safe space for LGBT young people, their friends, and anyone questioning their sexual orientation and/or gender identity. I mean, what the oh my God. Many schools in Scotland run extracurricular groups to include support young people with sexual orientation and/or gender identity. I mean, oh my God, man. Another ridiculous sentence. Ensuring that language is respectful and inclusive is essential to equality and anti-discriminatory practice. Okay. Oh, gender stereotypes. Despite some recent progress in society, boys are generally expected to be unemotional, strong, attracted to girls, sporty, and conform to... Here's the feminist shit again, by the way. Sporty and to conform to ideals of masculine physical attractiveness. Girls are generally expected to be nurturing, emotional, helpful, attracted to boys, and conform to ideals of feminine physical attractiveness. What's wrong with that, by the way? You know, if only we had that today. Declining birth rates and all that, but no, let's just continue to accelerate the feminist bullshit and eradicate the differences between the sex and empower women, because that will save Scotland's declining birth rates. Fucking way, feminism, eh? These are called gender stereotypes, and Nicola Sturgeon doesn't like them because she's a lesbian. Allegedly. Many young people find these stereotypes too restrictive. They can experience peer pressure to conform to them, or may experience bullying if they are seen to break the rules. Gender identity, gender expression, trans and trans. I mean, well, let me see what it says for gender identity. I really need... A person's deeply felt internal individual experience of gender. Oh my God, like... Oh, gender expression, a person's gender-related appearance, including clothes, speech, and mannerism. What a gender expression. That is just a made-up term. A made-up term being pumped out by the Scottish government. You know, many men dress differently to other men, but that's not a gender expression, is it? No, it's just a style. It's just who you are. It's nothing to do with expression of gender. What a load of fucking baloney, man. What the fuck? The trans umbrella, non-binaries. Oh, get away. They don't exist, eh? They don't exist. If gender's a social construct, none of it's real, how can a non-binary claim to break the boundary? or the binary, sorry, or we are offset binary. It's a social construct. You know, trans boys and men, trans girls and women, blah 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 blah. Non-binary people, you know, this is just ridiculous. Sorry, I'm really going on at this point. I'm just, as I say, I'm kind of doing this in real time now at this point. And then, of course, in the section about education, on page policy, legislation, further information. But again, this is on education. And it goes on to say here, sorry, where was it? I shouldn't have even bothered scrolling up, if I'm honest. I mean, this video's getting too long. Improving gender balance and equalities provides age and stage appropriate resources and research for practitioners to help. And then they want you to challenge gender stereotypes, address unconscious bias, improve gender balance and subject uptake and learner pathways. This is the SNP again. This is what fucking winds me up about the SNP. They like everything has to be equal on paper. Too many boys go into this specific subject, but they don't ever say when it's the other way around, unless it's if it tends to be like feminine things. Like they do the same thing with you know, childcare, etc. in the adult world. There's not enough men in childcare. Oh, that's not good enough. You know, we need more men in there. You know, but if it's a field that's more dominated, like one of the psychologies, is it not more dominated by women? A high paid profession. Oh, but that doesn't matter. Nah, it doesn't matter if there's too many men in there. But this annoys me because there's an imbalance. Apparently, that needs to be changed. They can't stop fucking meddling, and that ain't equality. It's forced equality. You can't make people conform. You can't change. This is the point. There's imbalances because men and women are different, but they want you to think that we're not. Promote whole establishment approaches to equality. This is just fucking stupid. Absolute nonsense. Ugh. So, I mean, I think there's a bit in education. I'm really going to have to end it after this because it's getting too long. I mean, I'll leave the links, etc. But if there's nothing on education, I might have to just call it a day. Legislation now, so you know, it's just yeah, might have to just call it a day, folks, because the video's just too long. But you get the gist. It's just you know, I don't know what to say at this point. But yeah, peace.